Holly disappeared after both of her parents were murdered. Well, now she is reuniting with the family she never even knew she had.
It's an embrace more than 40 years in the making.
Thank you for all your prayers.
Donna Casasanta is living an answered prayer. At long last, reunited in person with her granddaughter Holly, who was just a baby in 1981 when she and her parents, Dean and Tina Linn Clouse, vanished without a trace.
Secrets slumber in the silent underbelly of time, only to erupt when least expected, propelling unsuspecting individuals into a whirlwind of chilling revelations. In the depths of this cold case that spanned over 4 decades, the haunting tale of Holly Clouse from Oklahoma has emerged, unveiling a chilling timeline of events that shook the small town to its core. With the murder of her parents, Harold Dean Clouse and Tina Gail Linn, where their lifeless bodies were unceremoniously discarded in the woods east of Houston in 1981, the mystery surrounding Holly's sudden disappearance seemed destined to remain unsolved. However, against all odds, an astonishing twist of fate has brought this perplexing case back into the spotlight, as Holly Clouse is discovered 41 years later, offering hope of answers and justice for her grieving family. Welcome back to True Crime Expresso, your one-stop destination for spine-chilling solved and unsolved cases and brooding mysteries from all corners of the planet. In today's video, we'll explore how time spiraled into the future and the wounds of loss turned into faded scars. How a jolt from the past ignited a spark of unprecedented surprise. After 41 years in the vast timeline of history, Holly's case flashed back into the present, piercing through the once impenetrable cloaks of obscurity. The daughter once lost, now found. But with Holly being found, it raised even more questions than answers. Who killed Harold and Tina? And where was Holly all this time? As we travel back in time to the chilling winter day of January 12, 1981, we dive into a tale shrouded in mystery and horror, unfolding amid the sprawling wilderness of the northern Harris County, Texas, just past the hustling boundaries of Houston City. An unsuspecting civilian's dog decided to venture off into the eerie woods that day, only to return with a bone-chilling artifact in its jaws, a human arm, its skin decaying and writhing with a horrific tale of what lay hidden amidst the leafy terrain. This macabre discovery sparked a frantic search operation that unmasked a grim secret buried within the dense woods nearby Wallaceville Road. The sunlight ricocheted off towering trees, casting an irregular pattern of shadows that played tricks on the eye. Each step crunched the skeleton leaves underfoot, the only sound in this silent, desolate theater. In the distance, the solitary bark of the dog punctuated the silence. The puzzling hound was frenzied in its effort to uncover something from a mound beneath an imposing ancient tree. Hoisting himself closer, the civilian took notice of the dog's feverish excitement. Its tail whipped through the air with tense anticipation. A chilling realization sent shivers resonating through his soul. The shallow graves whispered tales of a grisly end, with 2 bodies intertwined, neatly tucked side by side under the deceptive mantle of fallen leaves. His mind raced as the weight of the grisly discovery sank in. Sprinting with wild abandon towards the nearest phone booth, he dialed 911. His voice was shaky with the horror of the discovery. Nestled within the shadowy greens, the decayed bodies of the couple emerged, mere feet apart, their fates tragically entwined in a deadly dance that seemed to have occurred in the same chilling sequence. The bodies bore the brunt of time, succumbing to decay and unbearable attrition, indicating that they had been dead for almost 2 months. Both bodies had been hidden in the woods just 100 yards away from Wallaceville Road. Investigators arrived on the scene, hoping to find any clues that might lead them to the identities of the deceased. What they discovered was a gruesome sight. The first body was identified as that of a young female, aged between 15 to 25 years old. She was white, with a possible Native American admixture, standing between 5'4" and 5'9". She had long reddish-brown hair styled in a ponytail, and her body was discovered near a pair of green running shorts. The young woman had been strangled. She was naked, and there was a bloody towel covering her. No other clothing was found on the scene, but investigators noted that she likely had a gap in her teeth and had short, stubby nails. Beside her lay the body of a young male, believed to be between 20 to 30 years old, but it was possible that he could have been as young as 15. As it was the 80s, they did not have the same forensic advancements that they do today. He was white with brown eyes and brown hair, standing between 5'4" and 5'8". The man had prominent eyebrows and showed signs of deterioration in his upper vertebrae in his neck, which could have been from a previous injury. Investigators noted that his wisdom teeth had either been removed or had not yet grown. The man had been stripped, bound, gagged, and beaten to death. The discovery of these two young people had shocked Harris County and left investigators with many questions. Who were these individuals, and what had led to their tragic fate? As investigators continued to piece together the evidence, they hoped that they would be able to uncover the truth behind this mystery. As if the discovery of the two decomposed bodies in these woods wasn't enough to send shivers down one's spine, the community was rocked by yet another body discovered in the same area 18 months later. This time, it was the body of Michelle Garvey, a 15-year-old girl who had gone missing a month prior. Michelle's body had been strangled and sexually abused, her innocent life taken in a violent act of cruelty. When investigators arrived on the scene, they noted that there were no shoes or bra present, and it was clear that Michelle's body had been there for some time. In fact, it had been lying in the exact same spot as the previously discovered bodies, further deepening the mystery surrounding the tragic deaths of these young individuals. The discovery of Michelle's body only added to the sense of unease in the community, with many wondering if there was a connection between her death and those of the two previously discovered bodies. Investigators knew that they had their work cut out for them, and they were determined to find answers to the many questions that lingered in the wake of these devastating discoveries. Michelle was identified straight away, but the other two bodies discovered before her were still not identified. Therefore, Mary Mace, a forensic artist, was brought in to create a pastel reconstruction of the couple discovered in the woods, hoping that someone would come forward with information on their identities. Despite widespread distribution of the reconstruction, no one came forward with any useful leads. With very little clues to work with, the investigators were left with no choice but to file the case away as unsolved. Fast forward 30 years to 2011, the decision was made to exhume the bodies of the unknown couple in order to collect DNA samples. This led to another dead end, and the case once again went cold. Then, in a twist that nobody saw coming, new information came to light in January of 2022. After 41 long years of unanswered questions, the case of the unidentified couple found in the Houston woods finally started to see some progress in the year 2022. Forensic scientist Allison Peacock of FHD Forensics was contacted and charged with the daunting task of identifying the two bodies. The team got to work putting the DNA information into GEDmatch.com, a national database of genetic profiles. And to their surprise, they got a match: a cousin of the male victim who was living in Kentucky. After contacting him, they were finally able to establish the identities of the two people found buried in the woods: Harold Dean Clouse, 21 years old at the time of his death, and his 17-year-old wife, Tina Gail Clouse, formerly Tina Gail Linn. In the sunny enclave of New Smyrna Beach, Florida, 1978, the destinies of Harold Dean Clouse Jr. and Tina Gail Linn collided. A young Tina, just 15, found herself drawn to the slightly older Harold Dean, then 19. In a twist of fate, their families were already entwined, as Harold's sister and Tina's brother had kindled a romance of their own. Underneath Florida's vibrant skies, Harold and Tina quickly fell into a tempestuous love affair, a whirlwind of romance that picked them up and carried them swiftly to the Volusia County Courthouse. There, on June 25, 1979, they sealed their fiery love with marriage vows. A testament to their passionate romance and commitment was the arrival of their little bundle of joy, Holly Marie Clouse, born on January 24, 1980. Harold and Tina, despite their youth, were cherished in their circle for their unwavering dedication to parenthood. As the dawn of the 1980s broke, Harold and Tina, in their youthful optimism, bid farewell to the familiar Florida shores. They set their gaze towards new horizons, venturing into the scorching heat of a Texan summer. Destination? Lewisville, Texas. A burgeoning suburb humming with the promise of prosperity, nestled within the radiant energy of the Dallas metropolitan area. Harold, a master of woodworking, had his sights set on capitalizing on the construction boom that swept the region in the early 80s. With Harold's expertise as a skilled cabinet maker, the couple brimmed with hope for a bullish future within the Texan trade industry. Their bond, as recalled by loving family members back home, remained unblemished. No disputes, no discord. An idyllic harmony seemed to veil the couple's relationship. Regular phone calls between the families kept their loved ones in the loop of their Texan journey. Yet, as autumn leaves began to fall in October 1980, an eerie silence fell upon the familial lifeline linking Harold and Tina with their families. The chatter halted abruptly, a deafening silence that carried an unsettling air of mystery. What had happened to them in the months that followed, and who was responsible for their deaths, remained a mystery. But with their identities finally confirmed, perhaps the investigators would finally be able to uncover the truth. It is believed their deaths occurred sometime between October 1980 and January 1981. Allison Peacock contacted their families, and Harold's mother gave them their first lead. She told them in late December 1980, Harold's mother received a call from a sister Susan. She informed them that Harold and Tina had joined their small religious group and no longer wished to have contact with their families. As part of joining the group, they gave up all possessions, and Sister Susan asked for $1,000 to bring their car, a red 1978 AMC Concorde, back to Florida. The family was obviously worried for Harold and Tina's well-being and decided to involve the police. The police told them to lure Sister Susan. Finally, 2 women and a man arrived at the Daytona racetrack in Florida to receive $1,000 for the car. The family got the car back, and the 3 individuals were immediately taken into police custody. This occurred in 1980, and a police report was filed for this sting operation. Unfortunately, the police report from that day in 1980 has yet to be found, a significant problem for the investigation. During the same conversation, Allison's heart sank when Harold's sister asked about the missing baby. It was a detail that had never come up in their investigation. The case had already taken so many twists and turns, and now there was a potential missing child involved. Allison took a deep breath and promised Harold's sister that they would do everything in their power to find out what happened to the baby. As she delved deeper into the case, Allison discovered that Harold and Tina did indeed have a child named Holly Clouse. She was less than a year old when her parents vanished, and no one had seen or heard from her since. Allison was determined to find out what happened to Holly, but it seemed like a daunting task. Determined to find the truth, investigators launched a nationwide search for Holly. However, their first hurdle was figuring out how to spell her name. While some investigators brushed it off as a minor detail, Allison Peacock of FHD Forensics knew that getting the name right was crucial in finding her. To determine the correct spelling, Allison and Harold's sister requested her birth certificate from Florida's Department of Vital Records, but were denied access. This sparked a frustrating and uphill battle, with officials denying each application for the record. However, Peacock and her team refused to give up. Investigators went through the ranks of people involved in the case, from detectives to senior prosecutors, judges, and eventually attorney generals from 3 different states, until they were finally granted access to Holly's birth certificate. They discovered that Holly had been adopted by a family in a nearby town. She was now a grown woman, living her life completely unaware of her tragic past. The reason behind the difficulty in obtaining Holly's birth certificate was because it was sealed. In the United States, sealed birth certificates are often the practice for original birth certificates following an adoption, thus making it difficult to obtain a copy of the record, except by court order. This also means that an adoption certificate comes along with the birth certificate. It was only due to the unwavering determination of Allison Peacock, who was adamant about finding the correct spelling of Holly's name, that the birth certificate was ultimately obtained. It is unclear whether it was a mere coincidence or a deliberate act, but the fact remains that without Allison's efforts, Holly may never have been found. Over the horizon of this discovery, the law enforcement descended upon Holly's place of work, divulging her origin story meticulously disentangled from a web of mislaid records and overlooked archives. As the investigators continued to dig deeper into the mysterious case of Harold and Tina, a breakthrough occurred in the form of a long-lost family member. Holly, Harold and Tina's daughter, now a 42-year-old mother of 5 living in Oklahoma, was finally reunited with her remaining biological family. It was a moment of joy and relief for everyone involved, as they had long given up hope of ever finding her. But the circumstances of her adoption remained shrouded in mystery, leaving more questions than answers. Despite the elation of the moment, the case was far from closed. The identity of the killer responsible for the murders of Holly's parents still remained a mystery, and the details surrounding Holly's adoption were just as puzzling. Investigators discovered that she had been left at a church in Arizona by 2 women who were members of a nomadic religious group. They were wearing robes and were barefoot. The religion was a mystery, as authorities were tight-lipped about revealing any details. However, they did divulge that the group practiced veganism and believed in separating the males from the females. The religious group was known to have traveled around the southern United States, including Arizona, California, and possibly Texas. In the early 1980s, the group was sighted around Yuma, Arizona, with its female members seen in various locations asking for food. The case seemed to have all the makings of a classic detective novel, with plenty of clues to follow and yet no answers in sight. Holly's miraculous discovery had only led to more questions and dead ends. Holly's extraordinary discovery had unspooled a thread leading down a labyrinth of questions, betraying no answer in sight. As the convoluted web of her adoption background unraveled, the murky involvement of a transient religious group emerged. However, detectives asserted their commitment to the cause, fortified by a conviction that the religious group held the master key to solving this cold case, a steadfast resolve to dredge out the truth and deliver a delayed justice to Holly and her biological roots. The unknown stretches out before us, filled with tantalizing secrets that await their inevitable unmasking. We linger on the precipice of shocking revelations, the echoes of a buried past resounding louder with each day. This searching journey into the annals of the unsolved and intriguing is far from over. It has only just begun.